Hi there, my name is Kieren Williamson, Director and Systems Architect at Assits. My previous experience includes working for some pretty big names, including Cable and Wireless, Hewlett-Packard, Tesco's, Airbus, EasyJet and many public organisations including South Essex NHS Trust, Sparsholt and Newham Colleges, Winchester and Lewisham Councils, to name but a few. So I feel well qualified to talk to you on today's subject, reducing IT expenditure. But before we look at IT costs, I would like to briefly visit staff costs. Now, for most organisations, staff costs are a significant part of their outlay, much larger than IT costs. It is important to consider that any changes made to reduce IT costs should not impact staff efficiency. If they do, it is a false economy. If your staff need some particular tool in order to work effectively, then make sure they get it. There is no point in paying staff to do a job the hard way. The lost productivity will cost more than you save. The second point I'd like to make is about total cost of ownership, or TCO. When people are making their IT purchasing decisions, they quite often only consider the initial price tag. They have not considered how much it costs to install, or run, or how much the annual upgrades will be. Make sure you know what the total cost is going to be for the life cycle of the system. Typically, IT systems last 3 to 5 years, so unless you have a reason to think otherwise, 4 years is a good stake in the ground for your calculation. Once again, people's time is likely to be one of the more expensive components. How long an engineer takes to install a new system, how much housekeeping that system needs, and how much training staff will need is likely to make a good proportion of the total cost of ownership. In fact, the running costs often cost more than the purchase price. Here's a simple example. The PC on the left is a traditional PC. The one on the right is a new net PC. They do the same thing and the prices are similar. But the PC on the right uses just 20% of the electricity of the one on the left. Do you know how much it costs to power a PC? Probably more than you think. In fact, in some cases, the PC can cost more to run in electricity than the original purchase price of the unit. This is a good example of a hidden cost that is part of the TCO, but probably doesn't even hit the IT budget. So if you want to make the right purchasing decisions, make sure you know your TCO. Many organisations are persuaded by their suppliers to buy more equipment than they really need, servers in particular. Servers are capable of multitasking in many environments, and the cost savings of reducing the number of servers you have is significant. It's not just the purchase price of the servers, but also the licenses, the update of the software like antivirus, and the technical support man-hours required to maintain it all. Often the operational costs well exceed the capital expense required to buy them in the first place. One of the key ways to consolidate is to virtualize. Virtualization is a technology that allows more than one copy of Windows or Linux to be installed on a single piece of hardware. So in the example here, you can see that there are 3 servers that the staff can connect to. Let's say a file server, an account server, and an email server. But even though there are 3 servers, all completely independent of one another, there is only one physical piece of equipment. The obvious benefit is less equipment to buy, but you might be catching on to the continuous theme here, which is about running costs. Virtual machines cost less to run, not just less electricity, but technical support too. It's much faster to deploy virtual machines than physical ones, and they are much simpler to back up, recover and maintain. And all of this means that it takes less time, and hence less cost to run. A few years back, virtualization tools were quite expensive, but now they have dropped in price dramatically, and many of the entry-level products suitable for the small to medium enterprise are actually free. And who doesn't like free? So virtualization is a great way for a business, even a small business, to cut costs. Even better than less servers is no servers at all, and this is the domain of cloud computing. With cloud computing, you do not need any servers or any software. Everything is provided for you as a service over the internet. This makes your TCO calculation a cinch, as it's just a small monthly fee for the service. No equipment, no software, no maintenance charges, no upgrade charges, and the vendor provides all the support and ancillary services such as backup and antivirus, all included in a simple monthly fee. Cloud is nearly always the cheapest way to provide a service, so if you are doing the maths and cloud is looking expensive, then you are almost certainly adding it up wrong. Have you correctly accounted for all the operational costs associated with the cloud alternative? Probably not. The only good reasons for not choosing cloud solutions these days are operational ones. Maybe the cloud vendors are not providing integration with another tool that you need, or perhaps it lacks functionality in some key area. But cloud solutions are getting more sophisticated as time goes by, so it's worth keeping an eye on the marketplace from time to time. Another good aspect about cloud solutions is that they are very low risk. You pay per month with no upfront capex. So if you are unsure of a cloud solution, you can try it for a few months and see how you get on. If it's no good, you can switch to another cloud vendor or a more traditional solution, and you will have lost little. This is in stark contrast to an in-house IT solution. If you decide you don't like it after you've purchased, too late will be the cry, as you will have already made the purchase of hardware, software, technical time to install and configure it all. In these circumstances, businesses often tolerate a system that users dislike for several years because the company do not want to write off such a large expenditure. Remember what I was saying earlier about staff efficiency being key? A bad purchasing decision such as this is the number one way to lose money. And this perhaps is one of the biggest and most overlooked benefits of cloud computing systems. They greatly minimize risk. The risk of making a bad purchasing decision, the risk of an on-site disaster, the risk of a backup system not recovering data like it was supposed to. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you tested your backup and recovery process? Thought so. Cloud computing is a big subject, and you can find out more about it at www.assits.co.uk/gocloud. Next, I would like to talk about vendors. It can be very difficult for a non-IT manager to sort the wheat from the chaff when it comes to IT suppliers. We have to trust the expertise and advice of others if we ourselves are not familiar with the subject matter. But here are a few tips for separating the good, the bad and the ugly. Many IT companies are like banks, in so much as they only offer advice on the products that they sell, and that might not necessarily be the best product for you. So be aware of the relationship that a supplier has and what they sell. If they are bound to a particular product, get a salesman for a competing product to talk to you. Alternatively, you can get your advice from an independent who can sell you a range of products to meet your needs. They are far more likely to sell the one that's right for you rather than the one that's right for them. Be aware of where your supplier makes their money. Also, make sure that you're not paying for pre-sales. Pre-sales advice should be free from a company that has a good product, as they have a good chance of selling it. When it comes to the delivery of professional services, there are a few things you can do to make sure that you're not hiring a cowboy. As with any industry, there are guidelines on how to approach the work. The two most common best practice frameworks in IT are Prince2 and ITIL. If the vendor has done similar work before and they have followed IT best practice, then there will be a paper trail. Your chosen vendor should be able to provide you with some documented evidence of this type of work. For previous projects, there should be statements of requirement documents that clearly specify what was being delivered for a given customer, design documents that show how a system is to be built, and build documents that provide configuration information about the system. You should also see this documentation being produced as your own project progresses. A lack of good quality documentation is a good sign that you should buy from elsewhere. A company is only as good as its staff. Just because one person in the company is a leading authority on the subject does not mean they all are. Are the people doing the work for you the same as the people who are being held as examples of the work done previously? If not, ask about the experience of the people doing the work, and some evidence of their experience and compliance with best practice. Lastly, you can ask for a reference, and when you speak to the previous happy customer, ask them which people did the work. Are they the same people that are doing the work for you? So, in summary, make sure that your staff are working efficiently. Don't cut corners, because that will be a false economy. Make sure that you know the total cost of a system before you go and buy it. Consolidate where you can. Don't buy unnecessary equipment. Consider virtualization technology to help you reduce both capital expenditure and operational expenditure. Consider using cloud-based services, as these are invariably the cheapest way to deliver a service if they are suitable for your business. Know the suppliers that you are buying from, what they sell and where they make their money. Make sure that the advice that you are getting is independent and good. And lastly, make sure that your IT is deployed and run according to IT best practice. Look for the documentation, as this is a good indicator of how well the work is being done. If you have any questions about this presentation, or would like to chat about the use of IT in your business, then feel free to give Assits a call. The advice is impartial and you're under no obligation to buy anything. Assits, a smart, simple IT solution.